Today, the agenda for today, I'm going to talk about the trends in the telecoms market, a little bit about the telecoms vision, opportunities for Africa. This is opportunities that I've seen while working with African operators, innovation in the communications and leadership in the communications industry. This is a trend, basically, and if you look at the number of subscribers and the growth that we're seeing in Africa, this is by Informa. The net additions and the basically expansion that's happening from 2006, 2007, we're having about 40% expansion, and it's dropping. Informa predicted by 2008 we'll reach about 260, and we are at 260 million today in Africa. So the predictions is pretty accurate. By 2011, we'll reach over 300 million, but the net additions, the growth, is going to drop. So from 40%, we're going to drop to 4%. This is something that we need to prepare for as a telecom operators. This is an indicator that we need to think about. That means we're going to face some of the problems that's happening in Europe, which is growth and saturation. Okay? What's the present status? 260 million GSM subscribers. Voice is still the killer application. Data is about 6 to 8%. Actually, in Africa, it's about 6 to 8% if you take Middle East and Africa. Africa, it's about 2% if you exclude SMS. But it's growing, and it's growing fast, actually. Forecast that's going to reach 30% in 10 years. New services like the MPEG, and I apologize for the A, it's E. So MPEG product from Safaricom, they won an award in the GSM Congress in Barcelona, and it's an innovative product, basically giving money to people in rural area or transferring money using your mobile phone. You don't make a lot of money out of services like that, but it includes the reach, it makes the stickiness factor higher with the customer, and also at the same time, it creates a community. It creates a much bigger community and loyalty with the operator. This is type of services that Africa needs because it touches the day-to-day activities of the African. And you cannot come up with those services with expensive rates. I was talking yesterday with the guys on Safaricom. Yeah, I really admired what they have done. You can look at the amount of margin that they're making in it. It's not really high. It's low. So M-Pesa is not making even, I'll say, even not 2% of people like MoneyGram, of people like transfer money can make. But this will give you a reach. I'm doing an MBA with IMD in Switzerland. One of my professors, actually, who's doing my MBA, wanted to study this application because of the effect that it reaches the people. This is something that we need to think about, this type of services that reaches the day-to-day activity of our customers. Competition as a present status. If you look at the competition in Ghana, in Tanzania, in Nigeria, offering all type of licenses, this is very healthy for the customers, very healthy for the consumers, but it puts a lot of pressure on the operator. How to operate with a $7 ARPU. How to operate when it reaches 6. We need to think strategically how we're going to do things. Margin is still healthy. I haven't heard of any operators not making money on the mobile side, at least, but everybody's still making money. But the challenge is to keep those margins. Big issue, regulatory, and I wouldn't like to be a regulator, even if they pay me $40 million or $50 million. Regulator is one of the most difficult jobs to work in the telecoms industry today, especially in Africa. Lots of industries, lots of trends, lots of things that are happening, multiple broadband access technologies, fixed mobile substitution, IP, more regulatory stakeholders. Nobody's happy. If you talk to any operator, he said, no, our regulator is doing this, This is not. And there's a lot of new technologies, and still, people don't understand it. There is a lot of, all of these things are happening, and he has to come up with something, has to be fair to everybody, and has to protect the people that paid for the license. Of course, the incumbent wouldn't like it. But at the same time, you cannot please everybody. So this is a big issue, and regulatories are faced with big issues, and the operators will never be satisfied. The communication value chain, this is also another trend, and this is a European slide, but I see it happening also in Africa. There is people that provide infrastructure, people like BT, Cable and Wireless, Telecom South Africa. These are the people that provide infrastructure. There's people that are network operators, like the mobile operators also. And there's service providers. It happens that this, the mobile operators are also service provider, and some of the telecom providers also service providers. But you can get MVNOs, and you can get people like resellers that are selling to the customers. In the UK today, you find people like Dixons, Virgin Mobile, all of these people are selling telephones basically, and telephony and bandwidth to the consumers. This is a different approach than what we have today. If you look at the retail industry, selling in the telecoms, their KPIs, their key performance indicators, is not the same as the operators. Their KPIs is basically about moving the product very fast from the shelf. They measure it based on the shelf space and the yield per the shelf space per day. They work in a much thinner margins, okay? The operators don't work the same way. The business model is not the same. So this is going to put a lot of pressure on the operators also in Africa. Plus, if you remember my first slide, the growth is not happening that much as we go along. As we move to 2008, there's going to be new players, and also there's not much growth. So we have to look at the infrastructure. We have to look at how we're doing our day-to-day operations. The vision, and this is from Owen, by the way, this is from other analysts and from many CEOs that I talk to. This is the vision, basically. It's integrated telecom, and also the regulators also is offering the same thing. It's basically the telecom is not going to be the same telecom that we have. It's not offering only bandwidth, not offering minutes only. It's going to be offering retail services, all kind of ICT services. And the strength is going to be basically in the application that they're providing. The same as I mentioned, M-Pesa. People that are providing also like information in the morning for the fishermen when they're going fishing in Senegal, for instance. Every day there's an application that provides them on the mobile about what's the weather conditions. This is something that affects their day-to-day life, and this is something that they need. And if you offer this service inexpensively, people will buy it, and you'll have much bigger community, as I said. So this is where the power will lie. Also in tailoring offerings to enterprises and consumers, having an offer, for instance, for Kenya Airways, having an offer for, the brewery companies. All these offers in one go, basically, will be some. Distribution and brand are key, and we have seen from Noel today that branding is a very important thing. So the customer is becoming a king as we move on, because all those integrated licenses, all those applications, he can buy the minutes from wherever he wants. He can buy them from the mobile, he can buy them from the fixed line, he can go and do internet call, over the internet using Google or Skype. He has a choice. And this is what the regulatory bodies are saying, and this is what the market is driving to. So it's not going to be the same condition. It's not going to be the same business model. 2006, 2005 business model about, reach and coverage and becoming as fast as possible, getting more subscribers. It's not going to be the same thing. We have to look about the ARPU and the AMPU, the average margin per user. So the telcos in 2010, they're going to be retail focused, offering more information, ICT services and products, leaner with less people in operation. You don't want to have an army of people running your networks. You need to have more people on the sales and marketing department where you increase your brand awareness and you increase your products and services. No organizational silos around specific products. The way telcos have evolved, they have evolved around services, around products, engineering driven, based on a product. They have a division for ADSL, a division for the mobile, a division for a new service. This is not the way it should be. Dividing your company. This is not the way, and I've seen today Cell-C presentation. It's going to be around the customer and segmenting the customer to serve him better. And you need to partnership with banks and media companies and third-party applications. This is very important for the reach, for coming up with new services. And business needs to be around open standards, nothing to lock you off. And highly customer-focused with personalized service. Now, if I'll go to the vision, and this is from talking to many CEOs. This is the vision of the CEOs, how they see, what they want. Basically, the CEO wish list is how can we bring innovative service very quick, time to market? How can I please my customer? How can I upsell the customer so the acquisition costs become lower because the ARPU is dropping? How can I increase my ARPU? How can I reduce the billing? No telecom operator likes their billing system. we happen to have a billing system, but I have to tell you that I haven't seen a single operator that's not complaining about their billing vendor, no matter who is, even if he's doing it. There is always something with the billing because it's a fundamental. It's one of the day-to-day operation, and you cannot get it 300% right. You can get it up to 90, 95% right, but there's always way for improvement. How we can get better information? This is always a key challenge for the decision makers, basically. How can I get, this is like Marina's presentation today, how can I get better information to have a better campaign management? These are the challenges the CU sees. The problem in the telecoms and the way they grow is basically, it started as putting things together very quickly, putting the network equipment, the network elements, putting divisions around those network elements, getting all those applications working together, and getting it as fast as possible, and acquiring new customers, new subscribers. You end up with this spaghetti, or this very big mammoth architecture. And I can tell you this is in all over Africa. This is the most dominant architecture. Not only Africa, in Europe also it's the same thing. Deutsche Telekom is the same. I've seen many operators in Europe have the same architecture also. Now, to introduce a new product and service, you need to work with all of the systems. First, just knowing all of the systems, keeping track of the changes is a task on its own. How about running it? How about maintaining it? How about buying servers? How about licensing? How about keeping? You add all those legacy behind. You add all those OPEX, operational costs. You end up with this type of architecture. Very complex. It's not easy to deal with, and introducing new service becomes a nightmare. Okay? So the CIOs basically, who's managing all of this, who's really in the middle of it, how can he provide better integrated systems and business processes? How can he respond to the business requirements? We need to launch this in 2 weeks. How can I respond? How can I get all those systems to run? Okay. How can I reduce the costs? My OPEX is running off the roof. To run this service, I need to buy new servers. I have to buy new licenses. I have to buy, to get more people. Difficult. How can I ensure better information for the business to make decisions, basically, in real time? It's very difficult also, because it's also to get the information for all of this legacy. And how can I reduce the hassle of maintaining the interfaces and upgrade, or upgrading the billing system, upgrading one of the CRM systems, upgrading any of my systems is a nightmare also. The number one priority, and this is based on a CIO survey for the CIOs, the number one priority for them, improving business processes and integrating the systems that they have. What are the opportunities for us in Africa? And this takes us to the fundamentals, basically, of telecoms. If you look at telecoms in details, what are the fundamentals, basically? If I'm an investor who wants to invest today, from a bank, somebody who wants to get into this, to a new license in South Africa and wherever, I have to look at those indicators, basically. What's the penetration in the country? What's the prices offered? What's the liberalization? How liberal is the market? What's the GDP growth? And how's the population growth? All of these indicators are very positive in Africa. If you take the penetration, if you remember my first slide, even by 2011, the penetration will be at 30% at best in Africa. If you look at the prices, yes, the prices are dropping, but you still can make, if you operate efficiently, you still can make a good margin. Liberalization, the markets are liberal. Everywhere I go in Africa, except maybe Ethiopia is the only country, but everywhere else it's very liberal. You get all type of licenses that you want. GDP growth, GDP is growing, and the population growth. The population is growing very rapidly in Africa. So for us, working in Africa is much easier than working in Europe, because if you look at these factors in Europe, you see a lot of negatives there. The penetration is over 100%. The prices dropped to the bare bone. Liberalization, yes, but there is a lot of stakeholders. You cannot move very easily. If you look at France, for instance, the regulatory bodies there, it's not simple at all. The GDP growth, basically, it's growing, but not very fast. And the population growth, it's reducing. So for the operators, basically, in Africa, they have a good time. And they have they have a way to go. They have future. And the opportunities, basically, and there is a big opportunity that I see it in Africa now, I see it for the Africans, is to serve those populations in the West, basically, where it's very expensive. The euro is increasing rapidly. Services is increasing rapidly in Europe. The West is looking at countries that they can outsource their shared services to. They're looking for call centers. They started with Ireland. Ireland is expensive. They moved to India. India is now proved to be expensive. They're looking at different places. Now there's countries that are picking up this opportunity. Egypt and Morocco are thinking about that. Why don't Mauritius, why don't South Africa look at that? We're in the middle of the globe. Okay, we can offer shared services. Human factor is our biggest asset in Africa. We can do a lot of things, but we have to do it right. And we have a lot of multilingual countries, people like Mauritius, people like DRC. There's a lot of countries in Africa that people that speak two language. And the human factor, as I said, is the biggest asset. But for that, we need the systems, the people, and the processes. We need to do it right. Not like this guy. He's looking for the opportunity. Basically, he's looking for the deer, while the deer is on top of him. So he's looking all over. We should build the right architecture. We should build it right. Not to build the silos, as I mentioned, the spaghetti approach, just to move to a cleaner business approach, to a common business logic, to things that are based on standards, based on end-to-end business processes, fully integrated, that make us easy to operate and have a much lower OpEx. So, what are the challenges if we're moving with that? The challenge is basically, and to serve those, to have those shared services, is to move into conversion services. And everywhere I go in Africa, I see the operators, they're moving into the new networks basically. They're rolling out new networks, having conversion services. They finished, most of them, the launch phase. And now they're looking into more of the maturity phase. So I see it all over Africa now that they're going with convergent services, going to a different network, and enable any type of service. You can get whatever you want. You have seen yesterday also a presentation about the 3G, CDMA, wideband. You're getting all those type of things here in Africa. And we even have a better opportunity than the West because we don't have a lot of legacy like there. Customer-centric business approach, and this is where we're lacking. This is the weakness that most of the operators in Africa have. The customer is not part of our day-to-day operations. It's very recent that you see that the operators have started to look at the customers. I was very happy to see what MCell have done today, but very few operators have looked at that. It's all about the customer. It's the customer who's the one who's paying for the bill, and how to reach him and serve him better. You need the business model, you need the systems and the processes, and you need to put the customer at the middle of your whole operation to have a successful future. Industry consolidation, and this is happening all over also the Middle East and Africa. We have seen that Celtel was sold to Zain Group. I've seen MTN buying Investcom, paying $5 billion for a relatively small operator. But it's happening. Why? Why people are consolidating? To have the reach, to have a much bigger network, to lower their cost, and to have a better control of the future. And basically, you need to have the right system for consolidation. Systems that can give you, you can manage the cost, have a central procurement across all of your countries, have corporate governance that you can control, have a strategy and formulate a strategy and move in a strategy across, have standards to become a giant conglomerate. And next generation networks, basically. How can I transform architecture to support the next generation network? How can I transform my architecture today to become available to get any new service as quickly as I want? How can I get my billing system? How can I get my CRM systems? How can I get my financials? All to be supporting of that. Now, in Oracle, we looked at all of this, and we started providing solutions to that. So this is basically the requirements. These were the guidelines for us of how to provide the solutions, basically. And this is from the Yankee Group survey. Shorter time to market, pre-integrated solutions with all the processes all together, proven technology, not new, something that has been provided before, open infrastructure based on ETOM, based on standards, nothing to lock me up, nothing to get me that I'm only with you and only you guys know it, the old days of the network, basically. Attractive new service that drive ARPU, attractive end user experience. The customers want to have a good feeling about the service, not a service that they need a scientist to get it to run. and reduce the overhead on the opcoms, basically, on the OpEx, and integration between OSS and BSS. For that, Oracle, for the past 2 years, we have bought 41 companies, and we put a huge budget on integrating those 41 companies. And the result of that happened actually by the October, November timeframe. We came up with a product, basically, that's the integration between all those 4 products, which each and every one is the best in its class, basically. We have Siebel for CRM, all the things about the customer and offering you the tools to have a customer-centric. We have Portal billing system, which is best in class for IP services, so you can have anything about revenue management or offering new service with a very powerful rating engine. We have Metasolv for OSS, for provisioning and network inventory. And we have Oracle itself, which is the financials HRMS for corporate governance. And we integrated all those applications together. We're using our middleware and allow you to have end-to-end processes to touch the different fulfillment, to track the order for the customer from the beginning all the way to getting the cash and having the revenue and knowing that this is for the customer. Also, defining the customer only once. So if the customer is defined in the financial system, it's defined across all the 4 different applications. The integration challenge is how to get those different applications. We went through basically a lot of things, basically using SOA architecture. And the fundamental, basically, ideology behind it is having the service as defined on its own, basically, and defining the object, the customer as a definition on its own, and having the service as a different definition, basically. This layered approach, that's like what I have seen today with Celsea, this was the fundamental of our EIA product, our integrated product. This product, as I said, have been embraced by 10 of the top operators worldwide. They are the one who design partner for this product. One of them is KPN, one of them is BT, one of them is also BT, KPN, Deutsche Telekom also is one of the people who help us with this product. And basically it allows industry reference models, pre-built processes, enterprise business services, enterprise business objects, and application business connection services. All based on standards. We are in version 2 of the product. KPN went live with version 2, not version 1, version 2 of the product about 4 weeks ago. Okay, I'm nearly through. Okay. A little bit about Oracle in Africa and what we're doing. We're number 1 in the communications industry worldwide. We have 19 of the world's top 20 companies for telecoms. All the 10 world's most profitable telecoms run our applications. All 15 of the US communication service providers run Oracle applications. 8 of the world's 10 mobile operators run Oracle applications. We allow you to enable the next generation services, drive customer-centric, transform into a new architecture, and improve cost control and compliance. I will run very quickly into this. Our offering basically from concept to cash, and this is what people like Yankee is saying basically, the combined Oracle Siebel Portal solution of CRM and billing and revenue management is compelling for current and next generation service delivery. Basically, you start defining the offer, you have the customer segmentation, you take the customer order, you fulfill the order, you do the service delivery, you charge the customer and have the revenue management, and you do the analysis. All pre-integrated without any manual intervention. Of course, faster time to market, lower operating costs. And derive the customer-centric. The customer is defined in our applications basically as a repository of its own. You offer him, and he's defined across all the channels. So if the customer comes from the web or calls the call center, or moves to one of your shops, basically, you know who's that customer, who's his friends, who's his family, what does he mean to you, and you offer him the right service. And you offer him the right offer, and you get his order, and then you bill him, and you do real-time analysis, and you do the billing. Lower customer service, and increase the ARPU. Also, we have part of our offering is our corporate governance, our financials, our CRM integrated together and together with the network inventory, so we can have a total view of the asset and the asset utilization and the network and what is the value of the asset. And we can give you up-to-date information about your cash flow, your asset, the value of the asset. And TRA regulatory reports also. Our offering is a complete offering from the OSS layer all the way to the BSS layer. So down from data hubs, basically information about the customer, to middleware, to service fulfillment and service assurance, to billing, customer relationship management, call center, web portal, branches over the web, and analysis on top of that. Our reach in Africa, we have 14 offices in Africa, and we're adding by almost every year, 2 new offices in Africa. We have 3 offices in South Africa. We have 1 office in Mozambique. We have an office in Kenya, office in Nigeria, office in Senegal. And we hire from the people, from the local people. So I have a Senegalese in Senegal. I have a Kenyan in Kenya. I have people from the local country. And we look for people. Our biggest problem is finding people. Really, this is our biggest problem. So if somebody has, resources, send them to me. Global footprint, this is our references. We have mostly, nearly everybody who's, from the top telecom providers are using our applications. In market share in Africa, we have about 20 operators today using our applications. In the Middle East, we have near to 100%. An example and a reference, one of our largest references, Safaricom. And Safaricom, about 2 years ago, have only very simple application of Oracle Financials. Today, Safaricom is standardized on Oracle CRM, Oracle BRM, which is our revenue management, our e-business suite, our HRMS, and they're reaching very good results at the moment. Okay. This is what our customers are saying, what are they achieving. BT improved their sales close rate by 122%. What I found really interesting is basically this inner wireless basically reducing OpEx by 40%. Okay. So basically, we enable next generation service, drive customer centric, and transform your information architecture, and improve your cost control. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Questions, comments from the audience? Yes. Why don't we start off with Mike? Can you get a mic to our friend here, in the second row, and then to our friend at the back? Thanks.
Thank you. I'm sure Larry Ellison will be pleased to see you conquering Africa.
Well, we're not only thinking about conquering Africa, we also want the communities to benefit from it. We hire from the countries, we open the offices. It will create a bigger ecosystem with partners also.
Good. I'm glad. Your, tech transfer, knowledge empowerment. You talk about M-Pesa, and I can tell you, I was in Afghanistan when Roshan Wireless rolled out M-Pesa, playing on the Word. Very impressed. Then 2.5 weeks ago, there's a gentleman here from a company called Wizit. You might have heard of him. South Africa came to the Inter-American Development Bank meeting in Miami and spoke. One of the problems we have in the Caribbean, we have a lot of remittances. Last year, we had over $60 billion in remittances into the Caribbean. Many of these people who send money back for their relatives are literally being raped by the likes of American Express, MoneyGram, and Western Union. And, this is a trend that we're not seeing yet in the Caribbean. I don't know if there's maybe some light, some challenges you see initially with implementing electronic money transfer using mobile devices, and maybe if there's a more aggressive path to deployment that maybe you want to share with us, because the countries are very similar.
Okay. Sharif, before you respond, I just have a quick announcement. Some people are expected to be at meetings right now. John Koma from TCRA, Francis Domini from MTN Swaziland, Angelo Gemma from MS Telecom, and Kellen Bonga from Minister of Communications, and Wellington Sibade from Sensi. Apologies if I've mispronounced some of the names, but you're requested to be at meetings right now. Sorry, Sharif, you can go ahead.
When I used M-Pesa because I fell in love with the application itself. I think it's something that's very useful for the African life. I am not into the details of how the details of the application works, but I can tell you because I talked with Safaricom and how they implemented it. Today, they have something like 2,000 dealers. They've started with their own dealers. You need to have an owner. You need to have people that sponsor that, people that believe in that. So the telecom, it was an initiative from Safaricom. So the people believed in it. So it wasn't a government, it wasn't a direction, it wasn't even an industry direction. It was an innovative solution from them. And I was talking to Noel today, and I think Noel is, can tell you more about, because they have the Z-Pesa also, and can tell you about what are the things that they went through to introduce it, basically. So I leave it to the operators, because they are the owner of that application, to say what are the problems, basically, the banks and the regulatories, what are the things that they need to do to get it run. But from Safaricom, it wasn't that difficult to implement. I've sat with them and they said they got it all done. Technologically, they have this solution. So technology is there. I think it's how to get the distribution and to get the banks and the regulatory bodies to coordinate. Okay?
Let's see the other question from the back there.
Over your presentation, you never mentioned anything about corporate social responsibility. And through that, I think the IT industry can cultivate a market, can cultivate the market by just like what I mentioned in the beginning. And two, there are other initiatives that you can ride on. For instance, the Global Youth Employment, which was initiated by Ismail Sorogadin, who used to be the former president of the World Bank. So maybe I would not need to talk more with you to share with you how this one can be specifically done, because you have successfully sold this one to the government, and the government of Rwanda is so much keen to use IT and ICT for development, but in between, they get lost. The president has signed up to it. There is a $77 million plan, but nobody is there to tap into that potential. So that's some big concern for me with many telecom operators in Africa. They look at profit, but they don't look at how can we empower our population so that they can be good consumers and many consumers that can generate more of our profit. Thank you.
Thanks. That's a good point. Corporate social responsibility.
Yes, the reason why I didn't mention it, because last year my presentation at the same conference I talked a lot about that. But I agree with you. There is a social responsibility for the telecoms and IT companies moving in Africa to have the corporate social responsibility for them. There is programs, there is education programs in each and every company. For us in Oracle, we have a program also for education, providing the software for the labs, basically. I wasn't aware about what's in Kigali, but I can get my colleagues from the public sector to work with you guys on this. We have also funds in our organizations for that. It's how to get it to the reach, how to get it to the maximum possible utilization. Again, each and every telecom provider that I have seen in Africa, I've seen MTN, I've seen Vodacom presentations, I've seen Zentel, they all talk and they all do things also for social responsibility. I've seen a lot of things that they have done. I'm not aware of what's the reach basically about that. But I can tell you at least about my company out on Oracle, we have programs for education and offering things for our customers also. We have rolled some of this education offerings in countries like Egypt. We have offered it also in Morocco. We have offered it, I think, in Senegal also as well. And there is funds for that. This is one of the things that we have. So it's up for our customers to tell us about how it is and the reach, and have a business case what it is.
Thanks, Sharif. A round of applause, please, for a very good session again on enterprise architectures and all the other issues.